Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Casey Lopez Barrios.
And Jessa Dialba. We are seniors here at Shorridge, and today I'll be introducing Leonel Lopez, the president of the Indiana Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Coalition and works with Indiana Legal Services.
Working with many migrant workers at the farms and making sure to keep them safe on the fields, giving farm workers a better life and new opportunities.
Okay, we're gonna. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
We're gonna start off with asking you a few questions, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, first question is, how do you keep all your migrant workers safe?
Yeah, so great question. So to begin, it would definitely depend, because it depends on what the workers need to be utmost forward. But many different ways is to make sure that workers are being treated fairly, they're being provided with enough breaks during the day, they're being offered water and not not charged for it, that they aren't being maltreated or exploited. And it utmost just it depends on what the worker needs at the moment, I guess. But yeah, we get cases from all over the state about different things, housing issues. Sometimes workers have like issues with the housing being provided to them is full of rodents or full of things that one wouldn't want to have in your house. So then we just do different types of ways to protect them. But yeah.
How has it impacted your way of treating people?
I honestly think that it has impacted it in a whole new level, right? We have to, it's when you help a different type of like a different type of worker or someone who has different experiences than myself, which is everyone on the face of the earth. We don't all experience things the same way, right? So I think it helps in understanding the problems and the struggles and the issues that other people might have in their lives, or like how to better treat or think of how you're going to treat or talk to someone, because of the way that they might perceive it, or things that they have had in their past, like have experienced in their lives.
How do you guys deal with working under severe heat?
So that is actually a big issue at the moment, because Indiana doesn't have protections for workers under extreme heat. We sort of revert to federal standards, which is just there's an organization that's the name is OSHA, Occupational Safety Hazard Administration, and they kind of gave guidance, which is not law. So it's not really a protection. It's just this is how you should treat your workers, but it doesn't mean this is how you're going to treat your workers. So Indiana doesn't have protections for workers other than that guidance. And so it's really difficult to try to protect workers in Indiana because there isn't precedent. We are trying to change it by with the coalition being president of it, with me being president of it, we're trying to tackle more uh, strategic goals, more like how to protect workers with heat stress, or how to protect workers from heat stress or isolation or things like that. And so it's one of the many things that we're tackling as like in the coalition, but it is definitely a tough one.
Okay. What has been the most challenging situation working at the farms?
So definitely, I think access to the farms is a tough situation where growers could kick anyone out at any point just because it is private property. Other than that, I would say, yeah, just trying to keep workers safe from heat. But the thing is that it is a field where heat is always there. Like you can't get away from it. Like we can't have AC outside. So it is a tough, that's probably one of the toughest. We've had a couple deaths over the past few years of migrant workers who've been working in the field in extreme heat conditions.
How do your employees know that they're valued?
So we always try to be supportive of everyone, with whatever it may be, and we want everyone to know that you can't, like, you're not supposed to tackle everything alone. So we're always there to help each other. So
The main office, ready to go. Eric Zambrano, report to the main office.
I'm sorry.
it's okay. So if there is ever any position that anyone at, like, where we work at feels overwhelmed or any sort of thing, we always ask them to please, like, reach out. Like, we are willing to take a share of the pie, you know, we're always looking on how to make lives better for farm workers. That is our main goal. That is our main our main goal.
What made you interested in going into this field of work?
Yeah, so I come from Mexico. Like, my parents moved here with me when I was 10 years old. So I like, it's really wishy-washy, because in this, like, in the US, you can't be undocumented if you're a minor, but I technically was undocumented, and there was no way, like, you know, high school students get jobs at 16 and they get their licenses and stuff. I wasn't doing anything like that, because people, like, that undocumented people can't receive those benefits. Like, they can't work, they can't, or they're not supposed to work, and they can't get driver's license. So I had to go to fields and work as a young, I was 12 years old when I started working in the fields. So I started working all summers and during spring breaks and things like that. So I have personal experience of what it's like to be out there. I remember the heat, I remember everything. So I try to, I think, remember that as we're trying to, like, help farm workers and help the underserved populations. And I think it's the reason why I got into this field, is to be able to help those people who suffered like me, right? To be able to have those protections for them, to be able to have, I don't know, breaks for them, and etc. So yeah.
What was the scariest part while you were working on the fields?
Yeah, I think definitely, I mean, scariest, or, like, top scariest, heat. And then there's another, I don't know, so there's pesticides. They spray plants with pesticides so that no pests kills them, but that's toxic to human bodies. When I used to work there, they used to make us go into fields with pesticides, which is poisonous to me. And so I think that is not knowing what's going to happen, right? And at that time, I didn't know that organizations like what I'm in now existed. So those rights I didn't know existed. So we just kind of went along with it. So those were definitely scariest.
How has it been for you being president of this service?
Yeah, so being president is a tough role for sure. It's not easy in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's kind of given me the opportunity to be able to push for those like, progressive agenda on, like, workers' protections, and you know, having to deal with, you know, climate change is an issue. Heat will only keep getting worse. I mean, if you keep looking at the data, the hottest days recorded keep happening over and over every year. So it's important for me as the president of this coalition to have advocacy for migrant workers who are suffering in this heat, or, you know, if severe storms keep happening, I mean, crops will only stop, like, dwindle in the way that they produce or whatnot. So yeah, I think being at the forefront of workers' protections for migrant workers is been very helpful with being president of the coalition.
What are your responsibilities as the president of the coalition?
Yeah, so they differ. It's a bunch of, I don't know, actually, it's really hard to say, just because I think I do everything. But I mean, we all try to help each other, like I say. So I mean, it's collaborating with organizations. If a farm worker reaches out to me and it's something that we can't help with, we try to find an organization within our coalition that can help. It's spearheading these different types of advocacy issues like, heat protections, brakes, water. We're trying to push for better housing conditions, since housing conditions haven't been changed in Indiana code since like 1960s, and that was a long time ago. So trying to spearhead all these different strategic advocacy issues.
What has been your favorite experience working there?
Honestly, I think getting to know the farm workers, getting to know that they deserve our respect, our everything. They deserve everything. They are the nicest people you'll ever meet. They're friendly, they're fun, we always try to throw a like, it's called the worker rights event every summer, and so we just had ours in August, and we went to a farm where 130 workers were there, and it was crazy. I mean, there was music, there was food, it was just so much fun, getting to talk to the workers, explaining them what their rights are, explaining to them what we do as an organization. And yeah, I think that's my favorite, is connecting with people. It's great. I'm also a very social person, so.
Would you say it affected your personal life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's affected how I think how I consider myself, because usually I think, like, when I go to the store, I think like, oh, that's too pricey, I can't buy that. But now I think it's a different outlook, as in like, well, actually, it's really tough to pick this watermelon or whatever it may be, or I know that the struggles that these people are going through, I think they deserve the money that is being charged. So hopefully what I'm thinking is that the price at the store, reflects on how much the worker is being paid.
Yeah. So you mentioned a while ago that some workers passed away due to the heat. How were their families compensated?
So it all depends on, there's like, it's all by law. It's the issue. So we in Indiana, or actually across the whole United States, there is a thing called workers' comp. So if you're ever injured on the job, you get compensation through that. So it all depends on what the insurance policy says. So those families were compensated by the insurance company and not by the employer. I mean, that's okay, but I don't like it sometimes, because I mean, there have been families who only get like at most like $10,000 for the death of a fellow, like, worker or whatnot. And the thing is that that's a low amount, if you think, because $10,000, to me, is low. I don't know, like it's not enough to survive on. And if a lot of times when you think about death of a migrant farm worker, a family in Mexico or a family in the US is like relying on the workers, on this worker who just passed away, on their income. So if they pass away, that family is now without income, and they are without a father figure. So it happens. I think it should be higher, and hopefully that's another thing that we can tackle as well strategically.
Okay. Okay.
And what about the families that didn't have insurance?
Yeah, then I mean, there's such a thing as wrongful death lawsuits, and we can try to bring those forward and sue like the employer or whatever it may be, just because there should always be an investigation to the death of the person, and there's differences between, there's like, did the company act negligent? Like, did they know something was wrong and they sent the worker in anyway, and then the worker died? Or was it just pure accident? There's the differences, right? So if it was negligent, then we try to sue the company and try to get money for the family, even though we know that money can't ever replace a life. But it's at least the best we can do, just because we can't bring them back. So yeah. If there wasn't any negligence and it was just a pure accidental life, and there wasn't an insurance policy, we can still sue the employer for not having an insurance policy, because everyone, I think it has to be with like more than, I think it's like 4 workers has to have an insurance policy. So like my place of work has one. We do have like 180 workers, but like a farm down the road has to have one too. So because they'll have more than, however many workers. So if they don't have one, we can take the steps to tell them like, hey, you're supposed to have one, you didn't have one, we're going to take action against you. You have to pay the family this much money or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Do you use your Spanish, like do you speak Spanish to your employees like ever, or do you like try to kind of step away from that?
Well, I speak Spanish all the time. I try to. I try not to lose it because it can be easily lost if you don't use it. And I don't know if you guys know Spanish or not, but I mean I grew up, that was my first language. I went to school in Mexico till I was in 4th grade, and then I kind of lost it when I came here, and 5th grade, 6th grade, all the way through high school and everything. Kind of lost it, but I realized how important it is, right? My role would not be possible if I didn't speak Spanish. Like my role, I'm the president of the coalition and I work with Indiana Legal Services. So my role without Spanish wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't be able to communicate with the workers. I wouldn't be, and also as you get older and you'll realize once you're applying for professional jobs, having more than one language is an asset and it can be very valuable. And also, your wage options go up salary wise. You can get paid way more if you know a second language.
Lucky us. What advice do you have for students who want to use their Spanish in a professional setting?
Can you repeat that, sorry?
What advice do you have for students who want to use their Spanish in a professional setting?
Yeah, I'd say, find a place that is gonna, like, don't get a job like somewhere where it's not gonna be a tool, right? Because there are many places that they're not going to use your Spanish, right? If you work if you work at like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, but let's just say like a small banking firm here in Indiana that only has like 5 branches, who only tailors to the like non-Hispanic white population, then you're probably not going to use it very often, right? Unless they try to expand to a broader population. But if you find a job like what I found, or there's many different ones. You could be like I have a really close relationship with the director of translations, and that's a very big, like, it's a big role that you would need a second language for. So I would say try to find something that is going to utilize it, and then also just don't ever let anyone tell you that knowing a second language is useless, just because knowing Spanish and knowing a second language in general is very, very useful and has helped me in many ways. So I have a daughter, she's 3 years old, and I only speak Spanish to her just because I know how valuable it is.
Do you think your personal life influenced the decision you made of getting into this field of work?
Oh, definitely. I think that if I hadn't known my experiences from 12 years old up, like, because I worked at a farm for 10 years. I stopped working there when I was like 22 years old. So 10 years of working in farms. If I didn't know what I knew then, like, I probably wouldn't have considered like how important this role was, or that this was even a role. Like I might have not even known, right? Like when looking through it or whatnot. So yeah, I think my personal life and experience definitely helped. And also just my parents still to this day are very bad at English. So I have to advocate for them almost all the time. So I'm the one, I like to consider myself a personal secretary for them, and I have been my whole life. So I just schedule all their doctor's appointments. It's
Glad to know we've all had those experiences.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat.
What are some things you did in high school that prepared you for your leadership today?
I took part in many clubs, but I honestly don't think that in high school I didn't think much about my future. I will be honest. I wasn't the greatest student, so I do urge people to be more. I will couple that with the fact that I was undocumented and I didn't have, I didn't have college set in my future just because a lot of them were asking for social security numbers or were asking for money that I didn't have, things like that. So I didn't really think to the future. Now going back, if I had known, because there's private colleges, I mean, there's like Catholic colleges that don't care about that stuff. If I would have known that, I would have applied way more. But I mean, I was in, I mean, we had, I don't know if this is something that you guys have, but we had Key Club, we had Beta Club, we had NHS, which was like National Honor Society, and we had, and I was part of all those. And then I was part of I mean, I wasn't very athletic. I did run, I ran track, but I mean, I ran track, and then I think I was president of the Green Alliance group, which was a recycling group in our high school. So we recycled, and we were in charge of taking our recycled plastic to the recycling center and things like that, and being in charge of putting recycling bins out or whatnot. And I think those like clubs kind of help build your leadership. They help you organize and help you find a way to not misspend your energy.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for students who would like to provide this kind of service?
I'd say get amazing organizational skills, just because as you get into your future careers or whatever, organization is going to be huge. You're going to have to note take. You're going to have to, like in my current position, we have to keep notes about everything. It's part of our funding. It's required. So I think I didn't think about that before with any other job, because it wasn't like professional jobs. But now that I am in a professional setting, note keeping, being able to record every transaction that I have with like workers, everything is going to be very important. So I'd say get amazing organizational skills, and then I would also couple that with just always be grateful for nonprofit work. It's very, very rewarding. We get when we close cases, we always get people who are like, "Thank you so much for everything. You guys helped me so much," or whatnot, and that has been seen throughout the whole pandemic years that we've been seeing. So yeah, it's very rewarding, and it feels good to hear things like that.
We're glad. What advice do you have for our friends and peers who are undocumented or whose parents are undocumented?
I'd say just if you're undocumented, it's really tough to say this, but just be hopeful that something will change. When I was in high school, it was when DACA came out. So I was able to apply for DACA, and I was a DACA recipient. Now I'm married and got a green card and all that, but I'd say be hopeful that something will change, that people will have a change of heart. Always advocate for yourself. Don't let being undocumented stop you, because while it is a scary thing, there are many options for you. And if you're a child of undocumented immigrants, just know that your parents have given probably one of the biggest sacrifices, which is leaving what they know in their country and coming to somewhere where how would you feel if you had to move to the middle of nowhere in Mexico, right? It would be scary. So just know that their sacrifices are there, and I'd say be grateful for what they did, and I mean, just thank them for everything. But yeah, also advocate for them if they are undocumented and you're not. Your words go a long way with state Congress or anything that you like to advocate at.
Is there any more advice you would like to give us, or anything else that you would like to add to this?
I would say always follow education. Always keep bettering yourself. It is never too late to learn something. You guys are young, and you will grow in the career ladder, but you need to know that like you're never like I didn't start this job. I had this job. I've been in this job for 2 years and 8 months or something, and I would have never seen myself in a president position or in a in a thing like that at the beginning of me graduating from high school. I think you guys are gonna be great. You guys are the future, and I think you guys need to know that you have to keep learning and never stop learning. Learning is never bad.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your words. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and thank you for being with us to celebrate our Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.